Hello and welcome to the homestead. This is the Prepare to Prosper YouTube channel, and this is my weekly live stream where we're just working our way through from Abraham up to David and his mighty men. This focus is actually to talk on David and his mighty men and the lessons we can learn from those guys in order to model our lives after them. But in order to discuss who these David and the mighty men were, we got to discuss how the history behind how that they came to be. So we start all the way back with Abraham. We've done Abraham. We've talked about Isaac. We've talked about most of Jacob's life. Today we're starting on Joseph. We will come back and hit the very end of Jacob's life in a future live stream. But basically, all that's left to cover in his life is the blessings of his 12 kids, 12 sons, and we're going to do that in a live stream dedicated to just those blessings. So Jacob's, the oldest son of Jacob's favorite wife, and Jacob's favorite son, Joseph, is what we're going to be discussing today. And right off the bat, we see a problem there. Joseph had multiple wives, or Jacob had multiple wives, caused him nothing but problems. It was a Jerry Springer show. We covered that last episode, or last video, live stream. But anyway, because of all that, and him having a favorite son, he decides to give Joseph a really fancy coat. Some translations say a coat of many colors. Some say an ornate coat. It's some sort of fancy coat. And he didn't give his brothers. None of Joseph's brothers got anything from their dad, Jacob, about like that. And Joseph's brothers would be out in the farm or out in the fields taking care of the sheep and stuff. And Joseph would come along, being the favorite kid. And he didn't seem, the Bible makes it seem like he didn't do that much work. And he just sat around being the favorite. And he'd spy on his brothers for his dad and tell them all the stuff they did wrong. So Joseph rubbed it in his brother's face that he was the favorite. And he even had a dream. And he went and told his brothers right away the dream. And the dream was he was standing and 12 sheaths of grain, representing his 12 brothers, surrounded him and then all bowed down to him. And this made his brothers mad because he's not the oldest and he thinks he's so great and he thinks that they're all one day going to bow down before him and all this stuff. So he's not happy, or he's not making any friends with them. They're pretty mad at him. And then he comes to him later. He's like, hey, I had another dream. Not only did 11 stars bow down to me, but also the sun and moon. And his brother's like, what? Not only do you think we're going to bow down and follow you, but you think that our parents are too? Like, and this caused all kinds of resentment between him and his brothers. And so it's important that we get along with our family, and if we have a success in our life where they don't, for whatever reason, don't rub it into their face. Be glad for their success and be humble with our own success, and never rub things in their face and cause that resentment between us, between family members. And don't show favoritism between your kids. Praise them all for, or both in my case, for what they do right, and punish both of them equally for what they do wrong. There is no difference, but there's lots of difference between them. Lots of difference between my kids, but you treat them the same, but you treat them as individuals. You don't favor one over the other. You don't let one slide on punishment when you don't let the other one. You don't let things slide. You don't You don't praise one when you don't praise the other. Praise both, all their achievements, and do more praising than punishing. And even if praise everything they do right, even if you're having some issues with them, it takes somewhere between 5 and 7 praises to counteract one thing that somebody says bad to somebody. Even if that bad thing was, hey, you screwed up here, and they literally did screw up there, to make them feel loved and cherished and a good part of the family, 5 to 7 times more good stuff you should say to them than bad. All right. So then Joseph, he's got his fancy coat. He's rubbing in all these dreams and that he's the favorite. He's rubbing that in his brother's faces. Well, they decide that they plot to kill him. And so Reuben, not the sandwich, the dude, Reuben, he tries to save him, but Judah suggests that they sell him. So the original plan was they were going to kill him. So they take him and throw him in a well. They're going to kill him. Reuben says, no, don't kill him yet. So they throw him in an empty cistern, like just a big pit that's dry, and they're going to decide what to do with him later. Well, then these traveling guys come along, the Ishmaelite traders come along, and Judah's like, hey, why don't we sell Joseph? We don't have to deal with the sin of killing him, and we get money out of it and get rid of him. So they sell him to the Ishmaelite traders for 20 shekels, and they take him to Egypt and sell him as a slave. So his brothers then take a goat, kill the goat, probably eat it, I would assume. They didn't waste the goat meat, but the Bible doesn't really say. But they take the goat's blood and they soak Joseph's coat in it. And then they take that back to their dad, Jacob, and they're like, hey, we've found Joseph's coat all torn up and bloody. And Jacob goes, oh no, my favorite son's died. I'm just going to sit around and mourn for the rest of my life. I might as well be dead. All right. There's a lot going on here. First off, Joseph has a lot of other kids, or Jacob has a lot of other kids. Is playing favorites now that his favorite son's dead. He's not going to participate in the family dynamics anymore. And now that he thinks his favorite son's dead, he's not going to participate in the family dynamics more. And I understand. I lost a wife. My wife lost her first husband. My 2 kids, they lost their dad. The same Sarah's first husband. And it's sad and tragic and all, but you got to learn to move on and do what God wants you to do, and life goes on. You can't just abandon everybody when tragic things happen in your life. And also, the brothers, obviously, they screwed up and didn't do what they should have and treated their brother fairly. Admittedly, he wasn't treating them fairly, but that doesn't give them an excuse to plot to kill him, throw him in a pit, and then sell him as a slave. It's all kind of family betrayals all around. Like we discussed in the last live stream, Jacob's family is like an episode of Jerry Springer. He screwed up everything you could imagine screwing up raising his kids. So, Joseph. And we're going to see how Joseph's life goes from the favorite kid, and he keeps getting worse and worse. And then in our next live stream, we're going to see how he's we're going to end this live stream. He's going to be at the bottom of the barrel. Can't get any lower than he is. And then we're going to see in the next live stream how he takes that and uses his gifts from God and uses his own discernment and wise wisdom in order to lift himself back up and make himself one of the most powerful and most important people on the planet. But we're going to get to that. So Joseph goes to get sold into slavery in Egypt. This guy named Potiphar buys him. Apparently, Potiphar was a very popular name at the time. We're going to see another guy named Potiphar in a little next week. And buys him, takes him home as a household slave. He does so well at everything that he gets promoted to like the head steward and runs the whole house. The only thing that's off limits to him is Potiphar's food and Potiphar's wife. But he runs all of Potiphar's household as a slave. And he's in charge of everything. And Potiphar's blessed by having Joseph in charge because Joseph is wise and has God's blessing on him that everything he does benefits his slave master. So even if we're in a position where everything sucks around us, and let's say we got a bad boss at work or whatever, I'm not saying stay at a toxic job, but we have a bad boss at work, or we have to work someplace where they don't treat us well, we find someplace else. Do everything to the best of your ability, and maybe instead of you need to find another job, you'll get promoted or moved in a position, or they'll see how well you're doing and how much prosperity you're bringing to everything, and they'll start to respect you more and treat you better. That's what happened to Joseph, and he was a slave. I've had pretty bad jobs, but I've had jobs where we worked 7 days a week, but I've never been so bad at work that I felt like an actual slave where they could beat me or anything. But so Joseph, he's a young man. He works hard. He's doing a lot of physical labor and stuff. So he's a good-looking man in great shape. Well, Potiphar's wife decides, hey, he's looking pretty good. My husband, he's old. He doesn't work out or whatever. I don't know what's going on with Potiphar, but she decides that she wants to sleep with Joseph. Well, Joseph is a slave. Potiphar said, don't touch my wife. Everything else in my household's yours. Well, he's a slave though, and a free woman, his master's wife, is saying, hey, you have to sleep with me. Well, Joseph has such integrity that he's going to say, no, I'm not going to sleep with you because my master doesn't want me to, and it's wrong in the eyes of God. And he could be killed for this. Potiphar's wife could have him killed for this. But instead, she hatches this plan and ends up getting Joseph arrested for attempting to rape her. And Potiphar could have had him killed, but Potiphar decides instead to throw him in jail. I think there's two possible explanations. One, Potiphar knows how great Joseph has done for him, so he doesn't want to kill him, even though he could for this. But he's like, I'm so grateful that of all the good things you've done for me, I'm not going to kill you. The other explanation, the one that I like the best, is Potiphar's like, hey, he's done all this awesome stuff for me. He's made my household so much better. He's made me so rich. Why would he do this? That doesn't make any sense. I don't think my wife's being honest here, so I'm not going to kill him. I'm just going to throw him in jail. I think that's more likely what happened, but the Bible doesn't say. We don't know for sure. It's just conjecture. So Joseph ends up in prison. And prison's pretty bad, especially in ancient times. So you had to earn your food, or people had to bring you food. There wasn't like a prison meal program at all. It wasn't even a commissary where you could buy food if you had money. Not really. You could give money to the guards and they could give you food, but they could also steal from you. So Joseph ends up, while he's in prison, and at the lowest point of his life, and we're going to go into more detail of this next week, but he decides to do what he can to make, while in prison, he's going to do the same kind of things he did in Potiphar's household to lift up the prisoners, and lift up the guards, and lift up the head jailer guy, so they all prosper along with him, so that now they'll take care of him. But we see that even though Joseph had an opportunity, he could have taken the easy way out. He decides to do the hard thing and accept the punishment for a crime he didn't commit in order to do the right thing and do what God wants him to do. And sometimes even following God, that doesn't mean we're going to have a good time and things are going to be great. Prosperity gospel is a bunch of crap. All these prosperity gospels say if you pray hard enough, pray right, blah, 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 God will bless you and whatever. And we don't see that anywhere in the Bible. Jesus never sins. He does everything perfect, worships the Father perfectly, and they end up killing him because they hate him so much. So if the world hated Jesus enough to kill him, they're not going to necessarily like us all the time either. So when things end up not going your way, just remember you're in good company. You're in the same company as Jesus is. As Jesus. So if you want to know more about this, if you want to follow this, tomorrow I'm going to work on putting a live stream schedule for the rest of the month and maybe into next month. Things maybe have to be adjusted, but I want to work on getting that live stream schedule up and posted on my Telegram channel. So if you want to see that, if you want to follow me on my homesteading stuff, see me working on the raised bed that's right there. The rest of the raised bed is over here. If you like gardening, homesteading, preparedness, or you want to join us on the journey to becoming better disciples of Christ, better fathers, better husbands, and better members of our community, follow me on Telegram. It's t.me/prepare to prosper. There's a link in the description. That's all I got for this week. I hope to see you again next week. And remember, we prepare today so we can prosper tomorrow.